Have you ever wondered what's left of a life when everything around you disappears? When power fades, when money runs out, when the people who surrounded you simply vanish as if they never existed? This isn't just a philosophical question thrown to the wind. It's the stark reality for many who, at some point, believed that success was measured in material achievements, social status, and growing numbers in a bank account. But what happens when the numbers reach zero? What happens when status vanishes? What remains? The story you are about to hear is not about a villain. It's not about a hero. It's about an ordinary man who made extraordinarily wrong choices, driven by the illusion that power and money could replace love and presence. It's about someone who had everything in his hands and let it slip through his fingers, not by accident, but by choice. Out of pride, out of emotional blindness. Have you ever been through this? Have you ever found yourself so obsessed with a goal and objective that you forgot to look around and notice who was falling behind? Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might surprise you and, who knows, change the way you see your own priorities. We're talking about a man no one visits, an invisible patient in bed 47 of some hospital, surrounded by the deafening silence of loneliness. But it wasn't always like this. There was a time when his name opened doors, when his calls were answered immediately, when his presence in a room changed the energy of the environment. There was a time when he believed he was invincible. And perhaps that's precisely where the danger lies. When we start to believe we are greater than we are, that our choices have no real consequences, that there will always be time to fix things, to ask for forgiveness, to do things differently. But is that really true? Does time really wait? Or does life exact the price for our decisions faster than we imagine? The man in bed 47 holds an old photograph in his hands. In it, a young, happy couple, full of dreams. He doesn't know we're still watching him, but sometimes he whispers words no one hears, words laden with regret so heavy it seems physical, palpable. I should have chosen differently, he murmurs. And the question remains, chosen what? Who did he leave behind? What love was sacrificed on the altar of ambition? If you've ever tasted the bitterness of regret, if you've ever looked back and wished you'd made different choices, then you'll recognize yourself in this story. Because deep down, we all have our should-haves. We all have that moment we'd like to relive. That word we wish we hadn't said, that person we wish we hadn't hurt. The difference is that some of us still have time. We can still pick up the phone and call. We can still knock on the door and apologize. We can still choose differently before it's too late. But for the man in bed 47, time is running out. And with it, any chance of redemption seems to be slipping away as well. What you're about to discover in the following lines isn't just his story, it's a mirror. An invitation to look at your own life and ask yourself, am I making the right choices? Am I prioritizing what truly matters? Or am I so blinded by the rush, by the relentless pursuit of more, that I'm losing sight of the people who make it all worthwhile? If this topic resonates with you, if these words are somehow touching something deep within you, leave a comment below about what has impacted you the most so far. It could be a reflection, a memory, a fear, or a hope. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people who also need to hear these stories, who also need this reminder that life is too short to waste on the wrong things. And if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe now and leave a like, because this is the kind of content that needs to reach more hearts, more lives that may be treading the same dangerous path as our character. Because the truth is, nobody wants to end up alone. Nobody wants to look back and see a desert of missed opportunities. Nobody wants to be the invisible man in bed 47. And there's still time to write a different story. There's still time to choose love instead of power, presence instead of prestige, true connection instead of empty achievements. But for that, we need to be willing to face uncomfortable truths about ourselves and the world we built around us. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because this is where the story truly begins to reveal its most disturbing layers. Imagine a silent hospital corridor where the only sounds are the constant beeping of monitors and the soft shuffling of nurses' shoes on the cold floor. In bed 47, there he is, a man of about 60 thin, with deep-set eyes that seem to carry the weight of 1,000 regrets. He has been there for weeks, and in all that time, not a single visit, not a single phone call, not even a flower on the bedside table. The nurses began to notice strange little details. The clothes he was wearing when he was admitted to the hospital were surprisingly simple, almost worn, as if they belonged to someone who didn't care about appearances. But the watch on his wrist told a completely different story. It was one of those models you only see in the windows of expensive stores, a piece worth more than many cars. This contradiction raised questions. Who is this man? Why does someone with a watch like that wear such ordinary clothes? And more importantly, why doesn't anyone come to see him? The hidden truth behind this invisible patient began to pique the curiosity of the medical staff. One nurse in particular, named Mariana, couldn't stop thinking about it. She saw so many patients every day, but this one was different. It wasn't just the physical loneliness that caught her attention. It was something in his eyes, a deep sadness that seemed to come from a place far beyond physical pain. It was the kind of sadness born from wrong decisions, from burned bridges, from relationships destroyed by pride or ambition. One day, while changing the sheets, Mariana saw that he was holding an old photograph between his trembling fingers. The image showed a young, elegant man next to a beautiful woman, both smiling with the kind of happiness only those who have never known disillusionment can possess. She almost didn't recognize the man in the photo as the patient in bed 47. What happened between that moment captured in the photograph and this lonely, painful present? The truth is that this man in bed 47 wasn't always invisible. Quite the opposite. 25 years ago, his name was synonymous with power. Augusto Santana owned a real estate empire that stretched across 3 states. He didn't walk, he strutted. His clothes came from Italy, custom-made. His apartment was a 400-square-meter penthouse with panoramic views of the city. Dinners with politicians, artists, and business people were routine. Business magazines featured his face with titles like the Brazilian King Midas. He had everything money could buy and power could achieve. But here's the revelation that changes everything. Having everything doesn't mean being happy. Augusto was so obsessed with building his empire that he began making choices that silently destroyed everything around him. His mentality was simple and deadly. In the business world, you either eat or you get eaten. There's no middle ground. This philosophy led him to make decisions that betrayed the people who trusted him most. He used funds from partners who were college friends, people who had invested their life savings believing in him, all to close a bigger, riskier, more ambitious deal. And the woman he loved, Helena, was everything Augusto didn't know he needed. A literature professor, with eyes that saw beyond appearances, she made him laugh at himself, question his certainties, showed him that there was beauty in things that couldn't be bought. But as their business grew, the distance between them increased. Canceled dinners, forgotten birthdays, broken promises. He believed he was building their future, but in reality, he was destroying their present. Augusto's transformation from a powerful man to an invisible patient didn't happen overnight. It was a slow and painful journey of self-destruction, where each wrong choice added another brick to the wall that separated him from everything that truly mattered. The impact of those decisions would only become clear when it was too late. What truly breaks the heart of this story isn't the millions lost, the crumbling empire, or the lawsuits. Augusto's real tragedy lies in that photograph he holds with trembling fingers on bed number 47. Helena wasn't just another woman in his life. She was the asterisk woman. The only one who saw beyond the money, beyond the power, beyond the impeccable facade he presented to the world. They met by chance in a bookstore when he entered the wrong room during a lecture on literature. Augusto stayed, not because of the topic, but because of the way she spoke, because of the genuine passion in every word. In their early years together, Helena made Augusto truly laugh. She questioned his certainties with sharp intelligence, showing him the beauty in a sunset watched in silence, in a poem read aloud, in conversations about dreams that didn't involve figures. She made him want to be a better version of himself. But Augusto's journey toward success began to create an invisible distance between them. He canceled dinners to close deals, forgot birthdays because of urgent meetings, and always arrived late with the same excuse: "It's an opportunity I can't miss." Helena tried to warn him countless times. "You're losing us," she would say. And he would reply, "I'm building our future." But the hidden truth that Augusto refused to see was that he wasn't building anything. He was destroying. The last straw came when she discovered he had used funds from people who trusted him, including close friends. The argument was devastating. "You betrayed the trust of people who love you," Helena said with tears in her eyes. And Augusto, blinded by pride, replied arrogantly. That was the last time they spoke. Helena left and never returned. Augusto waited for her to come back. After all, who would abandon a life of luxury because of principles? But she didn't return, and it was only years later, after losing everything, that he finally understood. Helena hadn't abandoned him. She had saved herself. After 3 weeks in bed 47, completely alone, the doctors informed Nurse Mariana that it was a matter of days, perhaps hours. Augusto's body was giving up, and she felt a tightness in her chest every time she entered that silent room. No one deserved to leave like that, completely invisible to the world. It was a Friday, late afternoon, when she heard firm footsteps in the hallway, footsteps that stopped exactly in front of room 47. Mariana turned and saw a woman of approximately 60 years old, elegant, with gray hair tied in a simple bun, carrying a fabric bag and a book. The revelation of what happened next completely transformed the atmosphere of the story. When the woman entered and Augusto opened his eyes, his face changed instantly. 25 years of pain, regret, and longing dissolved in a single second. "Helena," he whispered, his voice breaking. It was her, the woman from the photograph. The woman he should have chosen. She approached slowly, pulled up a chair, and sat beside the bed. The silence that settled was heavy with everything that had never been said, all the apologies that had never been offered, all the love that had been wasted. Helena explained that she had received a letter he had sent 20 years ago, but that it had only arrived now due to a postal error. She read those words of genuine regret and decided to look for him. Not out of obligation, not out of pity, but because she also needed closure. The impact of that encounter was overwhelming. Augusto cried for the first time in decades, not from physical pain, but from emotional relief. She was there, holding his hand, offering not necessarily forgiveness, but presence. And in that decisive moment, Augusto finally understood the difference between having everything and having what truly matters. Helena began to read poems in a low voice, as she used to do when they were together. Her voice was like a lullaby, bringing peace to a soul tormented by years of wrong choices. Augusto Santana died on a rainy Tuesday, 9 days after Helena walked through that door. She was beside him, holding his hand, reading the last poem from the book she had brought. He closed his eyes with a slight smile on his lips, something no one in the hospital had ever seen before. For the first time in decades, he seemed at peace. The funeral was simple, without luxuries, without crowds. Only Helena, the nurse Mariana, Dr. Silva, and a priest who didn't know Augusto but agreed to conduct the ceremony. There were no expensive flowers or emotional speeches from celebrities. Just the respectful silence of those who understand that some lives teach more by what is missing than by what remains. The complete transformation of Augusto's journey forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. In the end, when everything fades away, what truly remains? He had money, power, status, property, influence. But when the time came to leave, none of that mattered. What mattered was that someone chose to be there. Someone he had deeply hurt. Someone he had every right to turn his back on. decided to show up. Not out of obligation, but out of compassion, and that changed everything. The lesson echoing from the now empty room 47 is devastatingly simple. You can build empires, amass fortunes, have your name on plaques and in magazines. But if in the process you destroy the bonds that truly matter, you will end up alone. Loneliness isn't just physical, it's emotional, it's spiritual. It's realizing too late that you sacrificed real love in exchange for temporary achievements. Augusto spent 25 years carrying the weight of regret, but in the last 9 days of his life, he had something money could never buy: genuine presence. And perhaps that is the greatest revelation of all. It's not about how much you accumulate, it's about who stays when you have nothing left to offer but yourself. If you've made it this far, it's because this story touched something deep within you. And I want to ask you a sincere question. If you were in Augusto's place, what would you do differently today? Would you be able to see in time what truly matters? Or would you also need to lose everything to learn this lesson? And what do you think about Helena? Does forgiveness always come too late? Or is there still time to fix what's been broken? These are questions that don't have easy answers. And I'd love to know what's going through your mind right now. If this story made you reflect on your own choices, on the people you've been putting on the back burner, on what's truly worthwhile in your life, comment below. This message was for me. I read all the comments, honestly, and each one shows me that this type of content needs to continue reaching more people. And since you've stayed with me this far, please like this video. This simple gesture helps spread this reflection to other people who also need to hear it, who are also treading dangerous paths without realizing it. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, subscribe now, because here we don't just talk about stories, we talk about real transformation, true love, power choices, and the consequences they bring. These are stories that move you, that make you think, that leave a mark. There's a video over here that complements everything we've discussed. Today, it's about how small decisions shape entire destinies. Click and continue with me there, because this journey of self-discovery and reflection is just beginning. See you in the next video.